speaking about ethics, so the 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant devised this ethical system, speaking on Christian ethics, that every truth needs to be universally applicable. So lying is always wrong, and truth is always right. However, and that sounds good in just a concept, and it is true information. However, how that breaks down in real life can be flawed. So, like, take an example: you're at your home, and then Nazis come to your door, right? And they, bang on the door, and they say, "We will ask the questions," and they say, "Are you hiding any Jews?" And you're then faced with a decision: do you tell the truth, which is good, right?
Yeah.
To be truthful and not a liar, but if you do that, then the Nazis are gonna kill the Jews that are in your house. Or do you lie, which is bad, but you're gonna preserve people? So that's how Kantian's ethics kind of break down in real life, and you see the flaw there.
Oh.
So yeah. So as we're talking about whether it's right for David and Jonathan to, basically be sneaking around Saul, creating a plan, actually lying to Saul, that kind of informs whether that was right or wrong.
This is Living the Faith, proclaiming Christ from creation to consummation.
He's doing a recap.
I am doing a recap. How's it going, everybody? It's early. My name's Josiah.
I'm Travis.
Hey, there we go. Now we're on track. Hardy's not here. He's in the
Hardy's not
bathroom.
here. He's what?
He's in the bathroom.
Is he?
No.
Oh.
He might be up. I think the spirit is willing, but the alarm clock is weak. Anyway, it's just us today, so it'll be fun. So you recall that we just finished up last week 1 Samuel chapter 19.
Yeah.
And if you recall in there, Saul has repeatedly tried to kill David. Many things went down, kind of crazy. He tried all sorts of manner of things to kill David. He tried to get other people to kill him, contract killing, tried to get the Philistines to kill him, tried to kill him himself, threw a spear at him. And so as we're getting into chapter 20, we're going to see how David and Jonathan are having a little conference about what to do about the troublemaking Saul. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there
All
we go.
right, let's jump into the text. All right, ready? Okay. Verse 1. Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah and went and said to Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my iniquity? And what is my sin before your father that he seeks my life?" And Jonathan said to him, "By no means. You shall not die. Indeed, my father will do nothing either great or small without first telling me. And why should my father hide this from me? It is not so." Then David took an oath again and said, "Your father certainly knows that I have found favor in your eyes, and has said, 'Do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved.' But truly, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death." So Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you yourself desire, I will do it for you." And David said to Jonathan, "Indeed, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king to eat. But let me go, that I may hide in the field until the third day at evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, 'David earnestly asked permission of me that he might run over to Bethlehem, his city, for there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family.' If he says thus, it is well, your servant will be safe. But if he is very angry, be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore, you shall deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. Nevertheless, if there is iniquity in me, kill me yourself, for why should you bring me to your father?" But Jonathan said, "Far be it from you, for if I knew for certainly that evil was determined by my father to come upon you, then would I not tell you?" And David said to Jonathan, "Who will tell me? Or what if your father answers you roughly?" And Jonathan said to David, "Come, let us go out to the field." So both of them went out to the field. Then Jonathan said to David, "The Lord God of Israel is witness. When I have sounded out my father sometime tomorrow or the third day, and indeed there is good toward David, and I do not send to tell you, May the Lord do so and much more to Jonathan. But if it pleases my father to do you evil, then I will report it to you and send you away, that you may go in safety, and the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. And you shall not only show me the kindness of the Lord while I still live, that I may not die, but you shall not cut off your kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord has cut off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, let the Lord require it at the hand of David's enemies. Now Jonathan again caused David to vow, because he loved him, for he loved him as much as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed, because your seat will be empty. And when you have stayed 3 days, go down quickly and come to the place where you hid on the day of the deed, and remain by the stone Ezel. Then I will shoot 3 arrows to the side, as though I shot at a target. And there I will send a lad, saying, go, find the arrows. If I expressly say to the lad, look, the arrows are on this side of you, get them and come, then as the Lord lives, there is safety for you and no harm. But if I say thus to the young man, look, the arrows are beyond you, go your way, the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter which you spoke, and I have spoken of, indeed, the Lord be between you and me forever. Then David hid in the field, and when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat the feast. Now the king sat on his seat, as at other times, on a seat by the wall, and Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side. But David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought, something has happened to him. He is unclean. Surely he is unclean. And it happened the next day, the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan, his son, why has the son of Jesse not come to eat, either yesterday or today? And Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked permission of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, please let me go, for our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please let me get away and see my brothers. Therefore, he has not come to the king's table. Then Saul's anger was aroused against Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, you shall not be established, nor your kingdom. Now, therefore, send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. And Jonathan answered Saul, his father, and said to him, why should he be killed? What has he done? Then Saul cast a spear at him to kill him, by which Jonathan knew that it was determined by his father to kill David. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and ate no food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father treated him shamefully. And so it was in the morning that Jonathan went out to the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad was with him. Then he said to the lad, now run, find the arrows which I shoot. As the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad had come to the place where the arrow was, which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried out after the lad and said, is not the arrow beyond you? And Jonathan cried out after the lad, make haste, hurry, do not delay. So Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows and came back to his master. But the lad did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew of the matter. And Jonathan gave his weapons to his lad and said to him, go, carry them to the city. As soon as the lad had gone, David arose from a place toward the south, fell on his face to the ground, and bowed down 3 times. And they kissed one another, and they wept together, but David more so. Then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, since we have both sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, may the Lord be between you and me, and between our descendants and my descendants forever, your descendants and my descendants forever. So they he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city.
Right on. Nicely done. Better than if I was reading it. Man, I'd stumble all over the place.
Lost my breath a couple times there.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. I don't know if you noticed, like, as it's basically set in the context, you've got Jonathan and David talking together, making a plan and figuring out, okay, does Saul really want to kill David? And David is convinced, obviously. He's already had a spear chucked at him and been tried to kill numerous times. But Jonathan's like, well, yeah, is he? Yeah, I'm not, he's just like, no, certainly he's not going to try to kill you,
Well, he just came from Ramah, which Saul was there trying to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but weird stuff is happening too. I mean, remember, Saul doesn't end up try to kill David at Ramah. He prophesies instead, So maybe thinking about it, maybe Jonathan is just like, maybe God changed his heart. Maybe that's not
if
the
he even
case
knew
anymore.
that happened.
Yeah, could be. Not sure. But I was thinking, if anyone has had like entered into, because relationships get super complicated, and people could be at odds or whatever, and then so you wade in, you try to figure out the situation, you try to figure what's going on, and you're going to talk to someone and see where they're at, gauge where they're at, and try to be a peacemaker. However, I know from personal experience, once you wade into the conversation, you can get really confusing really quick, and you want just a straight up answer, but conversations rarely go like that, it just gets confusing, people are, and then sometimes you're just swayed by their character, you're talking to this person and you're like, oh, well, they might be like super charismatic or whatever, and you're like, I came here with every intention to like confront them, but they took it, twisted it, bend it the wrong different direction, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not even sure what that conversation was about, and whoops, dropped the phone. So thinking on that, what they did was very wise. They set out, okay, if Saul does this, we're gonna take that as a sign of hostility, and we're gonna know he's gonna try and kill David. If he does this, then we're gonna take that as a sign of goodwill, and he doesn't want to kill David. And so when you set those parameters beforehand, when you enter into the conversation, no matter how confusing it gets at that point, you know what the end result's going to be. You've already predetermined it, and you've come to an agreement. And so I think that's like just wise. It's wisdom, to approach it that way. So I don't know.
I find it funny how, in light of Saul constantly trying to kill David, he still expects David to sit at the table with him during the festival.
True. Yeah. He's like, where's this guy?
Yeah, he's like, isn't he supposed to be here so I can kill him?
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. So they make a pact and to lie. Yeah. So is it right for Christians in our day and age to lie? What does the Bible say about that? Because clearly, a man after God's own heart is now lying. How would you answer that?
Yeah, there's different systems, and they're logical systems, because I was gonna pull out that there was a really funny verse as you were reading, and it just made my mind go, where if you take something and isolate it, then it can say something that is not true, right? So we're talking about how Jonathan was talking to his servant boy as he was shooting his spear, or his arrows, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, is the arrow beyond you? And then he picked up the arrow, and then he went back into the city, and it said, what did it say? The lad, what did it say?
Didn't know anything?
Yeah, the lad did not know anything. So if you pull that, you're like, wow, this guy's like brainless. Yeah, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything about anything. But what it's trying to convey is that he didn't know anything about that situation. That was the secret situation that was going on, because he was really communicating to David. And so when we see a verse in the law, the 10 Commandments, it says, you shall not lie, right? So that's just a plain statement. And then so we look at that and we say, how do I apply that? okay, I'm just not gonna lie, and so you try to live that out, but then you run into conflict. You're like, if I tell the Nazi that Jews are in my house because I'm not gonna lie, then they are going to kill innocent people.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, that command to not lie is wrong, right? Really, it really is wrong. And we see that throughout Scripture, where Pharaoh told the midwives to kill the Hebrew children as soon as they were born, if it's a male. And so what they did was the midwives lied, and they're like, oh yeah, these Hebrew women, they're like super women. They just pop those kids out before we even get there. And it's too late. They're already born. And you're like, dang it. And what they did was they totally told a bald-faced lie. And so, yeah, I think that there's different systems, and I would like to have a lot more research on that, because I listened to something like several times. It was one of my favorite episodes, and I really, heard from these different ethical systems. But to pull it out of my in between my ears is not going to be super helpful. But because I'll probably forget. But there's different systems. So there's like Immanuel Kant. He took that statement from "You shall not lie," and he said, well, that's a universal rule. It has to be universally applicable to everybody. And so you better not lie. And then so you have that situation with the Nazis coming to your house. What do? If you're going to hold to Immanuel Kant's system, then you're not going to lie, because that would be sinful to lie. And so you're going to turn over the Jews. But I would call that evil. And so there's other systems that are in existence. So let's see, what was that guy who's born like 300 BC or something like that?
Aristotle.
Aristotle.
I learned that he was 300 BC today. I didn't realize he was that old. Old guy.
Exactly. So Aristotle, he had virtue ethics, right? So think of it. Just trying to do a quick summary. Obviously, it's quick and dirty, but virtue ethics is trying to like right now, if you're faced in a situation where you have to try to make a right or wrong decision, you're going to try to be as virtuous as possible. And you're like, hey, I'm like, no one's perfect right out of the womb kind of thing. And so, as you're younger, you may make bad decisions. Someone comes to your door and says, are there Jews hiding? And you're terrified. You're not courageous in that moment. So you're like, yeah, I got Jews hiding in my house. And then, but as you get older, you're building up, like, practice makes perfect. You're like, okay, next time I'm going to try and make a more virtuous decision. I'm not going to, I'm going to stand for what's right. And then, so the next time someone comes to your house, they're like, are there Jews there? And you're like, no, and you're willing to take the fall a little bit. And so his idea of ethics was always forming good character through habit, right? That's good. I mean, that is really, really good. But when it comes to like what is sin and what is righteousness, I don't think practice makes perfect is exactly a good way to go. I mean, like, in a sense, that's how we do live our life. We like in sanctification, like we have Christ's atonement for the fact that we are failures and sinners and all this kind of thing. And so we do in real life actually kind of fall into that virtue ethic. But it does have some problems, and so yeah, there's different systems. There's what was it? John Stuart Mill's, right? So that would be utilitarianism. Now this one's very interesting, and I think it's a bad system. But as you get into it, you're like, okay, now I've got a real issue to wrestle with. So I use the example. Okay, so how many people every year die of cancer? I have no idea. A lot. I'm sure it's in the millions.
Yeah.
And
let's just say 5 million to throw a number out.
Yeah. So we'll point to Travis, okay? And let's just say that Travis has natural occurring antibodies, that he's immune to cancer, and all those antibodies would cure everybody else, right? Okay, so now we've got, the goose that laid the golden egg. It's just like Travis is very valuable in this moment because
apparently I lay golden eggs.
Yeah. And so we would say, hey, But the only way to harvest the antibodies, this is not good medical science, but is that you need all the adrenaline pumping and to release all the stuff, and then you got to drain every ounce of blood, and so you actually have to kill him while after having tortured him, so all his adrenaline's going, and then you drain his blood, and then you distribute it to everyone across. So you've just tortured and murdered an innocent person to heal and cure millions. So at that point, it's utilitarianism. It's just like, this is wrong to do this, but by doing this, we've achieved a good. But what do you do? I mean, like, it takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of deep thinking. That's why Christian ethics is such a big topic and system, and it's something we do need to figure out. So, like, doing research, figuring it out, reading the Bible, that kind of thing. But you'll kind of see how the Word of God informs on those decisions. But so, would it be wrong if I forcibly took your blood? And
Please don't. But in light of this, right? So we're for lying, unless you have more system.
Nah, there's tons of systems.
Yeah. So in light of them lying, right? Does this mean that, if we're allowed to lie in those cases, in the case that you would agree with, which would be to preserve someone's life, right? Mm-hmm. Does that mean, well, since we can throw lying out the window in a sense, because I think a lot of people might see it like that, what do you think about lying to spare your wife the question, does this outfit make me look good or bad?
Nah, yeah, sure.
Are you allowed to lie for that?
It's very interesting. Yeah. See, I would probably without hesitation lie, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. No, I don't know. I think, yeah. So honestly, that thought right there is kind of another philosophical idea, and I think so like Joseph Fletcher, right? That's situational ethics. So you're in different situations. So if your wife came up to you and like, are you cheating on me? And you are cheating on her, which you're not cheating on her, but anyway. But if she were to bring up that, and at that point, if you lied, that would be very bad, right? Telling the truth is always better in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Now, if your wife comes up to you and says, "Does this dress make me look fat?" That's a completely different situation. And so with situational ethics, so really, there's only one absolute duty, and that's love, right? So love would say that you would tell the truth and say, honey, yes, I've been cheating on you, and let's work through this. And then the other one would say, honey, that totally does not make you look fat. You've applied love in both of those categories. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting thought, that every situation, what's right determines what is the most loving act, right? In that. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good system, because if you were to apply that to what God tells us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, mm-hmm. That flow in your life of situational ethics would be good, if you're able to do that, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? So that love, how you communicate that to people, how you communicate it to God, depending on the situation. One might be like those midwives; they lied to Pharaoh, mm-hmm. but they were showing love, true love, to the innocent party, and they didn't feel bad about lying to a madman,
And same with in the Nazi situation, right? They loved their Jewish neighbors mm-hmm. to say no to the Nazis, right? So they lied to the Nazis, right? And I think that's the crux of the reason why to lie, right? It's bottom line is you're gonna love. And I think even Jesus commended the priest who gave the showbread to David, mm-hmm. Bread that he wasn't supposed to have. Yeah. But because they were hungry and in need, he showed love to his neighbor and gave the food that technically only the priests were allowed to have, because mm-hmm. someone was in need, right? And so I think that sacrificial love, God looks at more than the actual letter of the law, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and it's really funny actually that we're talking about this because I didn't think we were going to be talking about this topic when before today. But me and Lilac were actually talking about how we would act in certain situations with like, okay, so you have a kid, right? You don't have a kid. We don't have a kid. But anyway, if we did, the thing would be like, okay, so your child comes up and we're talking about like, affirming their creative side or whatever, affirming the things that they're doing and not like critiquing it or something like that. And how does truth impact that, So like you could be like analytically truthful and you could be like, yeah, well, okay, this macaroni picture, I think it's kind of like a head, but I mean, it looks really bad. I'll put it up on the refrigerator, but it's really not your best work of art.
Yeah.
The child's going to be like, oh, I'm never going to do a macaroni picture again. And so you could, by truth, actually harm them. You're not showing love to them. You're critiquing them.
Yeah.
And so I think, shoot, what was the rest of it? We were talking about how truth, it's like, is it always loving to tell the truth? And sometimes it's not. I mean, keeping your silence is more loving in certain circumstances. And I really do like that ethic, where love is the ultimate rule. So Joseph Fletcher, I like that, So yeah, I think if you are going to be like, because you can have a conscience where you're like, I have to tell the truth. I have to tell the truth. And I think if you hold to that, you're going to be falling into like Immanuel Kant's camp where you're like, I have to tell the truth no matter what. And you can do more damage than good, with that ethical system.
Yeah.
And you can fail what God has actually told you to do, which is to love God, love your neighbor, and so this is why this topic is important, because like I said, go back to the law, you shall not lie, if you take that in isolation, you can twist the true meaning of what God's trying to get at there. What Jesus said when he summarized the law, you should love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. What he was doing was he was summarizing the 10 Commandments, which is looking at it as a holistic picture. But if you pull any of those apart, you hold to absolute truth no matter the cost, then you are going to actually be distorting what God was trying to tell you, So context is very important in taking everything as a full picture. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One thing also to remember too is that God's commandments are sure and we are to live by. So obviously we shouldn't lie. But given this situation, right, when someone has murderous intent toward you, for one, they're already violating God's command, right? It's not like an excuse that, oh, now I can just, because of the situation, you don't get to just say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because I get to lie to save my neighbor, I get to lie about anything and get away with it, right? I think every person is going to be held accountable for every word that they say, even when they lie. But I think God is a just judge to be able to filter out what's a good lie and what's like a honorable lie, and then what's a distinct breaking of his commandment. Because if you're trying to lie to save someone's life, then he's a fair and just judge. He's going to take that into an account, but still we have to give an account of it. So it's not an excuse to lie, but it's definitely it'll be weighed in, I think. And that goes for anybody who breaks his laws are going to be held accountable to God's ultimate judgment, right? And so we have to be careful on what we do, what we say, how we do things, because we want to live, especially if you were a Christian, we want to live honoring to God. So in any situation, we don't want to lie, but then we also don't want to come off as rude by telling the truth, like with a child in his macaroni face. And if our wife is like, excuse me, if my wife is like, hey, does this make me look fat? You want to show some love, but I don't know if lying is the best way to go about that. But I don't know. I guess you got to take that up in the moment of your conscience. But I think if you have the love as you're like, I love my wife and I want her to look her best, so I'm going to try to express to her what I think would show her how she would look the best, then having that as your guiding function to then respond to her rightly is probably a better way to go.
Yeah. That's really good. So moving on from there, I was kind of looking at verse 33. So remember, Jonathan is basically undecided on, Saul's mentality toward David and everything. And so it says Saul cast a spear at Jonathan to kill him, by which Jonathan knew that it was determined by his father to kill David. And so I brought this up last week where Saul's anger and hatred to David became so all-consuming, that he even tried to kill someone who's not David. He's just like, well, let me kill Jonathan then. That's actually not the first time he tried to kill Jonathan. Remember when they were fighting the Philistines and then the whole thing about the honey came up where Jonathan didn't know about the what's that called? Oath, to not eat honey that Saul had commanded. And then so he ate some, and then like they were dealing with like the backlash from that. And then it was like, well, who's guilty? And then he's just like, even if it's Jonathan, he's going to die,
That was before he got that distressing spirit.
Yeah. So, Saul's a crazy guy. But anyway.
What pride will do to you. Pride and power.
Yeah. Yeah, and just if you hate somebody, it is not only going to affect that person. It's going to affect a whole bunch of people. Oh, yeah. And so we just see that progression there where he's trying to get somebody else. He's trying to get the enemy to kill David, trying to get his own servants to kill David, tries to kill David himself. Now he's just like, I'm going to kill Jonathan. He's standing in my way. And, so, yeah, I thought that was crazy. I until we were studying this, I never knew that he tried to kill Jonathan. And I was just like, you learn something new every day. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, there was for one, we see the continual progression over these several chapters of Saul's jealousy, right? And I know we were kind of just talking about that too, but like, don't let jealousy grip your heart so much that you want someone else dead. Like that doesn't, obviously the fruit of it is displeasing to God. It severs friendships and relationships between family and friends and anything like that, right? It can lead to a, complete destruction or jealousy, pride, arrogance, what's the Bible verse say? It's like, pride comes before a fall, and God hates the arrogant look or something like that. God hates a lying tongue. It's in Proverbs 6. There's like a list of things that God hates. And, it's like a lying tongue God hates. And God hates an arrogant look. Hands who shed innocent blood, and other ones that I can't remember at the moment. And so obviously God doesn't like lying, but like I said, overlooks that. And we see like the murderous intent that someone can have over jealousy. And then pride fuels that. And as Christians, we need to watch out, because I think we live in a society that idolizes people who are in authority and in power. I mean, we have like American Idol, we have like these celebrities that everyone looks up to, and it's like, I've been guilty. I've gone to a church where it seemed like the pastor just seemed to be the highest thing there, right? And like nobody could touch him, nobody could get near him. He was like this celebrity. Everybody wanted to talk to him, but nobody could. And I think that kind of separation almost breeds this idol mentality, like celebrity status of a pastor. And we see a lot of those on TV and everything. And I forgot where I was going with that.
No, that's fine.
But I mean, like jealousy is, as Christians, we need to be able to look at someone else's success and not like say, oh, I need that too, so I'm going to try to get that, or, like be so envious where you have murderous intent toward them or something. Like, you should celebrate in someone else's success, even if you were overlooked. Mm-hmm. That's something that's been, hard on me, because I've always wanted to be acknowledged by people. And when I don't, I've found myself getting upset and be like, why is this person getting attention and I don't? Or like in those situations, and I know everybody has them, is when you want to say something in a group and then you try to say it and someone else says something at the exact same time and they get acknowledged and you don't. Like, that's kind of frustrating. And then you're just like, why did I even bother, kind of thing. I know I've had that happen to me a lot. I've seen it happen to other people a lot. And it's even worse is like if you have like a enemy in the group that you're just like, man, like a rival, and all of a sudden they keep getting acknowledged for everything when you should be acknowledged by it or something, or maybe they take your credit. It's easy for that jealousy to breed and fester and grow in you. And that's one thing, is we got to take it to the Lord, let him sort it out. Easier said than done. And yeah, we just don't want to become like Saul in our life. We should be like David.
Yeah, be like David. Kind of, in some
Kind
ways.
of, that's right.
Not everything.
Yeah, not everything.
Yeah.
Be a man after God's own heart.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, and so thinking about how toward the end of the chapter you see just the love between Jonathan and David, and I think something that really helped solidify that, because when you notice in the beginning of the chapter, there's questions, David's like, Saul's trying to kill me, and then Jonathan's just like, no, he wouldn't do that, and so there's a question about like loyalty, and then so through their actions, Jonathan proves himself to be loyal to David. Mm-hmm. And you see how that formed that tight, loyal love where, it kind of formed the bonds of that, and I think it's really, really important in a friendship where, events test love and loyalty, right? And so I think giving a thought to that, about your friends, how can you rally around and do everything you can to prove yourself as a true loving friend to them, and that kind of thing. Just on a personal, pulling, personal application out of this chapter is, doing the hard things, right? So he really ended up having to go against his father, in proving himself loyal to David, but David was in the right, so he had to do it, and so I don't know, just thinking through that. I don't know. Yeah, seeing how that loyalty came about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a couple more things we could address, but
there's always more we could address.
Yeah, there's always more we could, but we're constrained by time.
Yeah, we work for a living.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't our full-time job.
That's funny.
What?
Well, that'd be our full-time job. Yeah.
Let us know if you want.
No one pays us for this.
Let us know if you want this to be our full-time job, because if you're willing, we would love to, work something out or whatever.
I don't think we're that interesting.
But anyway, do you have anything else to say?
Well, join us next week because we'll be in chapter 21.
21.
Oh, hey, I was going to say something.
Sorry. Oh, you had something.
No. Just toward the bottom of the chapter, they end it with talking about basically a covenant of faithfulness toward one another. And that very last verse, number 42, let me flash it up. 42, and then they say, go in peace, since we have both sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, may the Lord be between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever. So he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. So anyway, I think it's very, and I wonder if they like saw each other after that. I don't know. After all the stuff.
I think
that
this
goes
is the
on.
last time they saw each other.
Yeah, I think next time David knows, Jonathan died in battle.
Yeah.
with his
Well, because
father.
I think after this, it's the point, the part of David's life where Saul's continuously chasing him, trying to kill him, and he's like running and
Yeah.
going all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. And so you see, and so those words in there about like a covenant between your descendants and my descendants, that's very important because later on, after Saul and Jonathan die in battle, you see how David lives up to that promise. He's just like, is there anyone from the house of Jonathan that I can show mercy to and kindness and all that kind of stuff? And then he comes across Mephibosheth.
The son or grandson?
It's the son of
His son.
of Jonathan, but he's
Yeah.
crippled, and so like,
There's actually a good story to that,
yeah,
but we'll get to that.
yeah.
It'll be a nice little surprise when we get there.
If you want to jump ahead, listen to the song "Carried to the Table." It's about Mephibosheth. Anyway, it's a really good song though. Like it's really beautiful, and you just see how he was crippled, and so David took him under his own household protection. He's just like, every day you're gonna be with me. You're gonna
Fulfilling
sit
the
at my
covenant he
table
had.
and eat every day for free, kind of thing.
So just a also heads up too is at the end of this book is when Saul dies, and then the next one, 2 Samuel, is when David takes up
Yeah,
the kingship. So
yeah, it'll be a wild ride. So we'll see that.
yeah,
So,
all right.
right on. See
Next
you, everybody.
time, deuces.
Bye. Next time we should have Hardy with us. So
Maybe.
he'll provide some comedic relief.